Good morning, everyone. I'm Montgomery County Council President Gabe Albornoz and Chair of our Health and Human Services Committee. I'm joined by Council Vice President Evan Glass and the Chair of our Education and Culture Committee and also member of the HHS Committee, Councilmember Rice. So, as I've shared the last couple of years in a row, this is one of my favorite days on the Council, today and tomorrow, when we have the opportunity to hear from all of our boards, committees, and commissions in succession. Which presents us with a really unique perspective and view of both the challenges but also opportunities that lie here in Montgomery County. And what always strikes me through these sessions is the interconnection between all of these respective issues. And I want to, on behalf of all of my colleagues, express my deepest appreciation to all of our community residents for their willingness to step up and serve on all of these boards, committees, and commissions. I also want to thank the staff that helps staff them. We look forward to these recommendations and these conversations, and more often than not, they find their way into policy decisions, they find their way into budget decisions, and they really provide a roadmap for us from a public health perspective on so many different levels. So the way we are going to structure today's conversation is we do have some members who will be joining us virtually and some who will be joining us in person. But as we have done in the past, we are going to hear from three groups in succession. And after those three groups complete their testimony, my colleagues and I will have an opportunity to ask questions of all three groups. That helps keeps things running a little bit more smoothly and helps ensure that nobody gets shortchanged through these really important conversations. And we ask that each of the organizations limit their testimony somewhere around 5 minutes, give or take, but that's not hard and fast. And if you go a little over, if you go a little under, that's okay. This is all very important and relevant information. And so we are going to begin with our Early Childhood Coordinating Council, who will be testifying virtually. And I want to invite Jody Burkhart. And then after that presentation, we will hear from the Community Action Board, and then we will hear from the Commission on Veterans Affairs. And then I'll ask that you keep your cameras on after all three presentations, and my colleagues and I will ask questions of those that are virtual and in person. So hope that was clear. So, but we start with our Early Childhood Coordinating Council.
Good morning. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come and speak with you all this morning. My name is Jody Burkhart, and I've been the chair of the Early Childhood Coordinating Council for the last 2 years and continue to participate as a member. So I'm excited to join you all this morning and share with you our priorities for this year. So we have three main priorities. The first is the mental health and social emotional well-being of children, families, and the early childhood workforce. So we have seen a really big increase, as many have in different fields, with the stress of the pandemic and the ongoing impacts on children and families, and especially the early childhood workforce. So we're recommending support for developing tools, sharing resources that are already available in the community, and advocating for increased opportunities for ongoing embedded professional development for child care professionals to support the social emotional development of children. We've seen a big increase in kind of regression of those skills and young children, especially while they were out of group care for the past 2.5 years. Our second priority is regarding childcare sustainability and systems. So we've seen the impact the pandemic has had on childcare and how it's highlighted what an integral part of our community childcare is. So we'd like to continue to promote current and alternative pathways for the early childhood workforce, specifically surrounding credentialing requirements outlined in the Blueprint for Maryland's Future, and provide recommendations and advocate for increased compensation for early childhood educators to recruit and retain a more sustainable workforce. Most programs at the moment are really struggling to staff their programs. We are seeing many programs in a situation where they have waiting lists, not because they don't have spaces, but because they don't have staff to be able to maintain ratios. So that impacts not only the programs that are operating, but also the families in need of childcare so that the parents can return back to work. And then our third priority is in regards to advocacy. So we want to focus on building a relationship with the new early childhood coordinating entity, the Children's Opportunity Alliance that's being stood up at the moment, and build more effective communication with MSDE. So this will be a really important relation for us as the Early Childhood Coordinating Council, that we connect and communicate openly with the Children's Opportunity Alliance as they step into their role as the new early childhood coordinating entity. And we also want to make sure that we are continuing to communicate with MSCE, in particular in regards to the blueprint for Maryland's future, and ensure that childcare and childcare providers are not forgotten and not dismissed or left out of that plan. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, we'll have questions after the next two presentations. And I failed to mention, I want to thank Ms. Vivian Yao, too, for pulling all of this together. There's a lot of logistical coordination that goes into this, in addition to the development of the packet. So we appreciate that leadership, Vivian. All right, next we will hear from our Community Action Board and Dr. Jeffrey Johnson.
Councilmember Albornoz, Glass, Rice, it's my pleasure to represent the Community Action Board today as chair of the Community Action Board. I want to thank you for the opportunity to share the Action Board's priorities. You have my complete written testimony, and so I would like to highlight several priorities which are included in our testimony. We greatly appreciate the Council's investment in meeting the needs of low-income county residents. Thank you for supporting Community Action's Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, VITA program, and its EITC and Child Tax Credit Outreach. Messaging is reaching its targeted populations, especially the ITN taxpayers, through bilingual bus signs, a text messaging campaign, and reaching over 67,000 in media interviews. We believe that additional funding for CAA and other VITA partners is a key strategy to assure access to these tax credits. We also appreciate the Council's support of the Tacoma East Silver Spring Test Community Center, which recently moved to Flower Avenue. The board resubmits its previous request to the HHS committee for merit position conversions of the test contractual staff working side by side with county employees for many, many years. We also request that the test opportunity coach position, a contractor funded through September to serve Long Branch families, be converted to a full-time merit position, as this is a one-year project. We are heartened by the HHS's director commitment to navigation, which centers on staff trained to actively listen to those they serve to fully understand their needs and connect them with appropriate services. And we are pleased that HHS initiated a new navigation unit within CAA, which is modeling the best practices of the tests and the navigators funded by CAA's CARES grant, and are excited to hear about efforts throughout HHS expanding access through similar practices. These grant-funded navigators employ a quote-unquote no wrong door and whole family multi-gen practice, and have played a key role in addressing human service needs through HHS mass care emergency response. While we are grateful for the new navigation unit, we recognize that there will be a reduction in staffing to 3 navigators after the 5 current grant-funded navigators positions end in December. We urge the Council and Department to consider whether additional merit navigators may be needed. Our board's Community Advocacy Institute is now in its 7th year of delivering free advocacy training to lower-income county residents, broadening their voices for policymakers to hear. I had an opportunity to be a part of the orientation session, and we have some very outstanding CIA trainees this year, and we look forward to them coming in front of you and sharing their thoughts about different policies as they affect low-income residents. We are proud that CIA is changing to better address the needs of participants, and excited that over 1/3 of this year's cohort is exclusively Spanish-speaking. to ensure that CAI is equitably delivered to its Spanish-speaking participants and that they may receive the same high-quality materials and communications, we are requesting that the council support a part-time contractor in fiscal year 24. We want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. We appreciate the council's commitment to help us to achieve our mission, advance social economic mobility among communities and neighbors through services, partnerships, and advocacy using an equity lens. Again, thank you again.
Thank you so much, Dr. Johnson. And next we will hear from Mr. Wayne Miller for the Commission on Veterans Affairs. Dr. Johnson, if you could actually stay there, because after this presentation, we'll just start into the questions. Is Mr. Miller with us?
He was scheduled to be virtual, I believe. I
Yeah.
don't know if he's on the call.
Okay.
No, he's not there right yet.
Okay. Then why don't we start with questions of these first two panels, and then we'll go to the next panel after that. So thank you both so much again for joining today. So I had a couple of questions, well, just notes. With regards to the Community Action Board, lots of recommendations there for full-time employees and contract, which I totally get and understand. So Ms. Yao will need to flag those through the budget process this year, and if we can signal early rather than later on to the executive branch, we're interested in seeing some or all of those. That would be very helpful. And I have had a chance to visit the Volunteer Tax Income Program on 2 occasions now in person and during tax season, and was immensely impressed with the operation, and I think that is a good model for other support systems that we may be able to provide county residents that do directly connect to public health. And economic health is very important, and tax season can be particularly stressful on all of our respective residents. And I also have a lot of respect with how intentional you all are at providing things in multiple languages and ensuring that they are culturally appropriate. But I also love the way, I've had the opportunity along with Council Vice President Glass and I know Councilmember Rice to attend graduations, and that you all have sort of empowering this next wave of civic activists,
Yes.
which is critically important, and will raise all boats. So more comments than questions, but really just wanted to express that appreciation, and we will follow up on the staffing recommendations.
Thank you.
With regards to the Early Childhood Coordinating Council, thank you so much, Jody. I really appreciate that. I certainly agree with all of the recommendations and really appreciate your openness and willingness to work with this new entity, because I do think that both organizations will be able to complement each other quite well, and that is something that's very exciting. And I know we're building this plane as we're flying it, and we really appreciate your all's input in that process because it's very important to us. You know, the issue of recruitment and retention of staff, I mean, it's a national problem. And one that you all understandably have been testifying about pretty consistently at this point. So I do know my colleagues in the Department of Health and Human Services are very focused on this issue as well. And I think we're going to have to swing big here in the upcoming year or beyond. Thanks to Councilmember Rice's leadership and that of his colleagues with the Kerwin Commission and the blueprint, that does provide a roadmap, but now it has to be enacted upon. And it needs to be funded. So I think some of the hope is that the recommendations out of this new entity, the Children's Opportunity Alliance, coupled with your all's, will also provide a roadmap in how we swing big in terms of addressing those recruitment and retention issues. So, and then lastly, absolutely agree with the mental health challenges that are impacting the children themselves, their families, and the staff, which is a systemic issue that we are going to need to work creatively in addressing more tools for. So appreciate your testimony. I'll yield to colleagues if they have anything. Councilmember Rice.
I just have one, and really want to thank both for great work and continuing to do great things for our community. Again, as the council president said, I did want to chime in with the Early Childhood Coordinating Council, because I think that one of the things that you highlighted, Jody, around what it is we need to do with our workforce is incredibly important. It was a conversation that we had in the Education and Culture Committee earlier this week. And we were talking about building those pathways and starting with Montgomery County Public Schools. And so what I'd like to do is encourage us to have a stronger kind of relationship. Now that we also have the ECEI as well, we need to bring all to bear to say that we need to ensure that there are pathways for folks that are in our matriculating through our K through 12 and going right into these fields, just like they're going into all the other fields as well with certifications, right? And so that's a whole part of the CTE that's also a part of the blueprint. So just wanted to encourage us to, you know, and I'm certainly willing in my last month and a half, I think, to be able to try and make sure that we forge those kinds of relationships for the future. I think that's going to be incredibly instrumental if we are to truly meet the needs of our community that we see that are going to rise with the blueprint now that provides even more slots and opportunities for more kids in our community. So more to come there, but just wanted to highlight that part.
Thank you. Council Vice President Glass.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to see both of you in real life and virtually. And I think it's actually really important to note that the two of you are in this panel together, recognizing the interconnectedness in the work that you're doing,
Yes.
quite frankly. As Councilmember Rice just alluded to with early childhood education and all the changes that are happening statewide and locally, and the work that Council President Albornoz referenced in his comments as well. And you know, I don't have any questions because the work that you've been doing speaks for itself. And I was proud to have attended the Community Action Board graduation at Borough Park earlier this year. Wonderful to see so many people and to celebrate their advocacy.
Yes.
And I look forward to seeing them here,
Yes.
either at this committee in the future or testifying at another upcoming council session, as they so often do. But really, it's strengthening these relationships. And one of the things that I appreciate about these committee hearings once a year is that we all get to hear what everyone's doing. And more importantly, you all get to hear what your colleagues and other committees, commissions, and boards are doing so that we can foster those relationships, strengthen those relationships, and work together ultimately towards the goals of making sure that every resident here has the support services that they need. So I just wanted to say thank you both, and good to see you this morning.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. You both did a great job. All right, we are going to, has Mr. Miller joined us by any chance? I don't believe so, but that's okay. Okay, then if he's not able to join us today, perhaps he can join us tomorrow morning or later this morning. All right, so next we are going to hear from the Commission on People with Disabilities, the Commission on Juvenile Justice, and there is a slight change. We are going to move up the Citizens Review Panel for Children, because my understanding is Ms. McNeely has another appointment she has to get to this morning. So again, the next three groups are Commission on People with Disabilities, Commission on Juvenile Justice, and Citizens Review Panel for Children. And we will start with the Commission on People with Disabilities. And it's great to see you, Ms. Galilee. Thank you so much for joining us today. You are on.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I got it. I have a puppy at my house, so I was trying to get him a little contained before I got online here. Anyway, good morning, and thank you for having us this morning. I really appreciate it. I feel like I just saw you last week. So we are excited to be a part of the national hiring of people with disabilities and that focus, and we certainly continue that focus. That is a major issue that the Commission is always in our forefront in terms of what we do and advocating for more employment. We certainly have tremendous opportunities right now with a lot of job openings in the county as well as in federal government really opening up, and other offices. and the advent of telework. That opens many opportunities up for people who have transportation issues and challenges, that they can work full-time at home and be contributing to society, and to really the main focus there is to be independent. But that leads also to housing. We know that the county is building out a lot of housing, and I drive by it every day in Rockville. But what I see is a lot of townhouses that are not accessible. I see a lot of not affordable housing, $1 million townhomes right next to the metro. There's an opportunity right there for people with disabilities to have quick access to the metro, but yet it's not affordable. So there are a lot of challenges there. Certainly, we want to be able to also provide housing for people who are aging, and all of us at some point may have a disability that we have to deal with, and that's where Design for Life comes in. Design for Life is a great program that the Commission started many years ago and is supported by the county. But I think we've missed some opportunities during the building out during COVID. A lot of people did renovations. I know myself, I did renovations, and to not really promote that program to its fullest extent. So we really want to look at reinvigorating that program. We're certainly having them opening some dialogue with the Design for Life folks to see where we are, and to so you'll be hearing some more from us on that program to really get it reinvigorated and get it out in the forefront again for people to use that as an option. One of the major issues that we've also been focusing on is sidewalks and bike lanes. And certainly we've written the county many times, the county council many times, regarding the bike lanes and the concerns there. Personally, I have a lot of concern because I see the danger that some of the bike lanes can pose to individuals with disabilities, and frankly, anybody who moves differently. The need the requirement to have to cross a bike lane to get to a bus stop puts people in harm's way. And that would be referencing the floating bus stops, where in fact, one of our persons, the wife of a person with a disability, she's blind. One day she couldn't find the bus stop. And if you can imagine, she's an attorney working downtown for the federal government. And how embarrassing is that? I mean, that's what it feels like for a person with disability when they can no longer be independent and not find something as simple as a bus stop that they went to every day. And she uses a service dog as well. And so that's another thing that's putting service dogs at harm's way as well, because the bike lanes are causing problems with the fact that the dog actually walks out slightly in front of the person. If they're a person who's blind, or like myself, my dog sometimes does walk a little ahead of me. They're not necessarily trained to watch for bikes. And so that's a whole nother avenue of work that those agencies will have to focus on if we continue to build these bike lanes. The concern is also about the maintenance of sidewalks. So there's a serious lack of sidewalks, and we know that that's a very political issue, because obviously you put a sidewalk in front of somebody's house and they have to shovel the snow and things like that. But as we learned during COVID, there's a lot of people who now like to walk the neighborhoods, but in many cases they can't do that because the sidewalks are not there, or they're poorly maintained, that it's impossible to traverse them. I know recently, I'm proud that the city of Rockville renovated my sidewalks near my house, and it's been so fantastic. And my neighbor was a little bit put out by the fact that they were doing this. But once I told them the fact that the sidewalk now makes it so that people, the man down the street who walks, who's not so steady on his feet, doesn't have to worry about walking on a sidewalk that's on an angle, because now it's accessible. It's been made accessible. And that's a fantastic thing, that we can have that freedom to walk our neighborhoods. And so, you know, we have put in written testimony as well. One of the other issues around transportation is the concern that with the changes in the way the bike lanes are proposed, it doesn't allow for people to get near the curb, and it doesn't allow for enough space to get out of your vehicle, because now we've narrowed the lanes. And so that's a major concern. And we don't see that the plans have called for any type of parking for persons with disabilities. And in fact, when we talked about it, there was an assumption that persons with disabilities exit their vehicle on the passenger side, which in my case is not true. I get out the driver's side. And to have to enter a street now, I'm going to hold up traffic if I have to get out of the vehicle. And I'm concerned about my safety. I'm concerned about my service dog's safety if I have to park in that fashion. So these are just a few of the issues. We certainly have a long list of items on our talk that we've sent you recently about mental health care, equal access to health care, early intervention screening for children regarding autism spectrum, and many other issues. But I'll conclude my testimony here. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that testimony. The next two groups we're going to hear from are the Commission on Juvenile Justice and then the Citizens Review Panel on Children. So we'll now hear from Kevin Redden.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Kevin Redden. Thank you for allowing me to be here and for the opportunity to testify on behalf of the Commission on Juvenile Justice. The Commission is a 34-member body comprising of both citizen commissioners and agency representatives. As you all know, our mission is to evaluate state and county funded programs that serve juveniles and their families, and study and recommend procedures, programs, and legislation, and finally to inform the county government on the needs and requirements of juveniles and the juvenile justice system. The Commission looks forward to fulfilling its mission in the coming fiscal year, and in order to do so, the Commission will continue to support juvenile justice reform throughout the 2023 legislative session. Maryland has 33 separate offenses which automatically place youth into adult criminal courts, and in 2022, the Commission supported Senate Bill 165, which greatly limited the charges which would be automatically transferred juveniles from the juvenile justice system into the adult criminal justice system. Unfortunately, the bill did not get passed into law in 2023, and the Commission will continue to support the bill's successor did not get passed in law into the 2022 session. The Commission will continue to support the bill's successor in the 2023 session, with the goal of keeping juveniles who are charged with a crime in the juvenile justice system. Further, the Commission will also monitor, research, and recommend policies relating to Montgomery County Public Schools. The past 3 years have brought significant changes to the county's public school system, specifically relating to student resource officers, or SROs. The Commission will continue to engage with civic and academic leaders to help the county navigate these changes and implement new policies for the county's youth and the county's students. The Commission hasn't taken a position on the CEO 2.0 program at this time, but we'll likely discuss the program sometime in the future, and we're happy to have a conversation about that once that takes place. And finally, the county employs a number of agencies which work with at-risk youth or youth who are already involved in the juvenile justice system. Many of the county agencies also interact directly with state and private actors. The Commission intends to analyze how the respective agencies interact in order to eliminate barriers to the provision of services to the county's youth. We also look forward to visiting some of the facilities we serve the county and the county's youth, and inform the county council and the county executives on our findings. Thank you again, and I welcome the opportunity to speak further.
Thank you very much. And then finally for this panel, we're going to hear from the Citizens Review Panel for Children.
Good morning. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak this morning. And again, thank you very much for the flexibility in the scheduling and allowing me to speak a little earlier in this session. In the past year, the Citizens Review Panel for Children has worked with representatives from the Child Welfare Services Agency to identify a couple of issues that would benefit from independent panel review. The first of those issues was the recruitment and retention of resource parents and resource homes. And the second of those issues was services for LGBTQ foster youth. After some initial work in those areas, we've decided to continue focusing on those areas in the upcoming year because we still feel like there's additional insight that can be gained and shared with not just the Child Welfare Services Agency, but also with the council and other members of the community. So with regard to the recruitment and retention of resource homes and foster parents, the panel did meet with leadership from the Montgomery County Foster Parents Association and learned a bit about that association and how that association supports our resource homes, and developed a survey so that we could learn more about the experience of being a resource family in Montgomery County. So we're currently working on a review of the initial draft of our summary of those survey results, and we're going to be taking those results and figuring out things that we can move forward and gain a little bit more traction and insight into. And similarly with the LGBTQ foster youth services, there was a few surveys that had already been submitted. We developed our own and sent it to the staff of the Child Welfare Services Agency. They were very considerate in responding, and it gives us some clarity into ways in which the policies are being applied consistently, and also ways in which there might be opportunities for additional clarity and additional support so that the policies are achieving their desired results. So we're going to continue to review the summaries of those results and again try to gain additional insight and provide recommendations out in the upcoming year. Thank you very much for the opportunity today to testify.
Thank you. I have a number of questions and comments for this panel, and I just, again, want to express my deepest appreciation to all of you for serving. So with regards to our Commission on People with Disabilities, Ms. Galilee, I associate myself with all of your comments, and I know there has been understandable anxiousness and frustration with as we've developed our bike lanes plan, and there being a general feeling that we have not had as much thought given as there should be to ensuring as we develop these master plans that more of the concerns you raised in your testimony aren't under consideration. There is some good news. So yesterday the council did move forward legislation that I think will significantly enhance the capacity for more sidewalks in the county because there is an acknowledgement of a need for that. And it's interesting you brought this up, and you're right. I think all of us probably have personal experience with this. Sidewalks engender a lot of conflict within communities. Those very supportive of it, and those passionately supportive of it, and those passionately opposed to it. But I will say, and I can say this now having served 4 years in this position and hopefully 4 more, that I've seen a shift. I think there is much more interest in sidewalk usage than there used to be, and a much more significant openness to it. So I think we should ride that wave and build more momentum, and ensuring that the sidewalks that we do have are constructed in such a way that take into account the unique issues that you brought up as well, and that they be level. And I'm glad to hear that you had some success with your own neighborhood. And the partnership with the municipalities, I think, is going to be very important. The last thing I'll mention is, Thrive has engendered a lot of discussion over the last 2 years. And my understanding is the county executive recently reached out to the commission expressing some of his concerns, which I wish he had reached out to us prior to him reaching out to you all. But be that as it may, I think that there is a tremendous opportunity as we shift towards implementation with this next council of working collaboratively with you all on that implementation. And I look forward to that, and I just speaking for myself, and I'm sure my colleagues who are returning or coming in, we're committed to this. And there's some evidence. So we recently passed laws to provide some boundaries around the use of scooters, e-scooters, as an example, which, you know, this body felt unregulated could create as many problems as it tries to solve. And so, you know, with a disability lens in mind, ensuring that everyone felt comfortable with that technology. So I just want to assure you, you've been heard, and we will follow up on all of those respective items. I do have a few questions for our Commission on Juvenile Justice, and let me start by expressing my appreciation for you not weighing in on the new program implemented by MCPS until we have more data and until there's more information on the fidelity of that program. I thought that showed tremendous leadership from you all, because, you know, there are some well-intentioned organizations who expressed opinions on a program that had not yet even been implemented. And as we've seen with the increase in violence, unfortunately, these first couple of months with some of the high-profile cases at sporting events, it's important that there be relationships, positive, quality, authentic relationships between youth and law enforcement officials. And so it's this part of this ecosystem. But the question I have for you, and maybe some of you've heard this personally or colleagues, but and for context, I think you may know I've been in the youth development space for my entire professional career. But what I'm hearing from youth workers on the ground is continuing concern around parent engagement or lack thereof, which has become a sort of a chronic challenge. And we have these systems in place. We do all that we can to support our youth at all levels, prevention, intervention, and through the juvenile justice system. But I don't know that we are doing enough on the parent engagement side, because our parents need help too. But what I've heard repeatedly from folks on the ground is parents that have literally just given up and are sort of a pass-through, if you will, and not providing the meaningful support necessary for our youth and the families themselves to be able to exist cohesively. Could you talk a little bit about that, Mr. Redden, and if you're seeing the same thing, hearing the same thing, and are there any plans from the Commission to look at this issue of holistic parent engagement?
Yeah, of course. And, you know, I can't say for certain that I have heard the exact same thing. I think generally the past few years have been difficult on everybody, families, children. I think that likely bleeds into juvenile justice realm as well. In terms of what the Commission plans to do about it or intends to do about it, we are also going to focus on youth prevention, which I think is intimately tied into those family, relationships. And that's something we're going to prioritize over the next year as well. Once we have those findings, we're happy to have a discussion with you and the council about it and see what we can do.
That would be great. Thank you. And then with regards to our Citizens Review for Children, I appreciate all of your respective efforts. You brought up a number of very good points, the Foster Parent Association. It is remarkable how many different associations are out there that sometimes we're not aware of that are doing similar or complementary work. And so I think there's an opportunity for us to create a more intentional time and space, in addition to these 2 days, to bring the various boards and commissions together in a way that's intentional. And I should have recognized at the beginning, I want to thank Dr. Kroll and his leadership and that of his team on the Department of Health and Human Services. But it strikes me that as a follow-up to this now, especially that we're getting together in person again, we might want to bring like-minded institutions and organizations together to have some of these more holistic conversations. So I'll yield to my colleagues now. Council Vice President Glass.
Thank you. Thank you all for the presentations, and I'll just tick through all three of you with a few thoughts I have as I've listened to your presentations. Ms. Galley, I appreciate the continued efforts to make sure everybody is safe on our streets, and that also includes making sure those who have physical disabilities or other types of situations that they too are safe. I agree that we put a lot of emphasis on pedestrians and bicyclists and drivers, but need to be mindful of others, as you have noted. And I'm proud that this council and the county executive just yesterday, in fact, passed a new law that will change some regulations regarding sidewalk installation, making sure, first and foremost, I think pertinent to this conversation, that we no longer have sidewalks to nowhere that just end after a block or two when there's a new development. And believe it or not, but we could probably all believe it, that there was disagreement within county government about how that should be stopped. But we put an end to that, and hopefully moving forward, as we continue growing and developing and building sidewalks, they will be continuous, so that some of the problems that you highlighted will be no more. But as you mentioned, that we also have to recognize the floating bus stops and some of the other infrastructure that continue to be built, and so look forward to those continued conversations because they are critically important for everybody. So thank you for your continued engagement and advocacy. Mr. Redden, I was struck by the statistic that I knew, but I continue to be struck by it, that Maryland sends more youth into the criminal justice system than any other state except Alabama. So we rank either 49th or 2nd, depending on how you want to look at it. And my question for you is, as you've been looking at the landscape, part of this is local, making sure that we have youth engagement opportunities, positive youth development programs, but it seems to me also some of this is needs to be tackled by the state, right? And so I'm curious from your perspective, what more can either we be doing, or what kind of coordination needs to be done between Montgomery County and our colleagues and partners in Annapolis?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to answer that question. In terms of what more can be done, I think supporting bills like Senate Bill 165, either implicitly or explicitly, would be of huge help. I'm not sure, at this point, the number that's when it will be reintroduced and the workings behind that, but I think an overall goal to, like I said, ensure that juveniles and youth are kept within the juvenile justice system so that they have access to our programs is key elements of any reform that we have moving forward here.
Thank you for that. And as we all start preparing for the next session here at the council and the next session in Annapolis, I'd encourage you and everybody who's participating in today's conversations to share with us what legislative priorities you as individuals or as organizations, committees, boards, and commissions might have, so that we can weigh in and encourage our colleagues in Annapolis and the new governor and the team there to support these, so that we all can move forward together. So please stay in touch on those issues. And thank you for being here. And last, Ms. McNeely, appreciate the continued emphasis on LGBTQ plus youth, clearly near and dear to my heart. And one of the highlights of this last year was going to the grand opening of the Youth Re-Engagement Drop-In Center. I was there with Council President Albornoz in Wheaton, and this is a facility that was led by the Collaboration Council. And if you or members of your commission have not yet been, I encourage a field trip to go and see, so that you can spread the information and spread the love with everybody in your network about this unique opportunity, a safe space for youth who might not have a safe place to go, who might be confused, and also resources for them and their family. So there are a lot of other organizations doing doing work in this space, clearly. But I'll just ask you: were you aware of that drop-in center? Have you or others gone and seen possibly some collaborative efforts on the horizon?
No, actually, I was not aware, but I'm very interested, and this has been an issue that we've focused on for a couple of years, because we really think it is important to make sure not that all of our children in the foster care system are supported, but especially those who might be having additional stresses, and so we certainly will check that out, and I'll share that with my colleagues on the panel, and we'll consider that for definitely a field trip in the future.
Fantastic. Well, I'm happy to help coordinate and put you in touch with Elijah Wheeler, who's the Executive Director of Collaboration Council, so that you all can go and visit and learn more ways to share with your partners and those who need that help. So look forward to seeing more things on the horizon, and thank you all this morning for joining us.
Thank you. Councilmember Rice.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and Mr. Chair, and thank you to all three of you. Ms. Galley, I'm just going to jump in and start with a couple pieces that I think are incredibly important. Number 5, when you identified about early intervention screening program for children, especially ages 0 to 3, that's a part of the blueprint for Maryland's future now, to where we're doing this early childhood screening to identify any kinds of differing abilities for our children. It is a key priority of the state and is a key priority of MCPS. So just wanted to highlight that for you, because I think that you'll see that early screening initiative be a part of the upcoming budget for MCPS. So I just wanted to flag that for you to make sure that you pay attention. And for my colleagues and for Ms. Yao's staff, let's just make sure that that's highlighted and that that information is transmitted to the commission, because it's incredibly important. I couldn't agree with you more. So just wanted to lift that up, in addition to all of the things. But then also talking about Riley's Lock, that was something that I was intimately involved in, working with Betsy Luking and working with Parks to make sure that we had that launch. And it's great to hear the success that's happened as a result and the time difference. These are the kinds of things when we talk about inclusion and making sure that folks have an opportunity, especially for so many of our disabled veterans, to be able to do some kind of restorative work when it comes to their mental health, and being able to just be out there enjoying the peace and quiet and the beauty that is our Potomac River, and to be able to just kind of disconnect, but to be able to do that accessibly is incredibly important. And so I agree with you about the shelter, and just wanted to lift that up as well. That's something that I don't think is that cost exorbitant, and so from that aspect, it may even be something that Parks may be able to do within their existing budget. So I'd like for us to just follow up on that as well and see if that's a possibility. Shelters aren't that expensive. So thank you very much, Ms. Galley. Then I want to go to Mr. Redden. Mr. Redden, I also want to echo my appreciation in terms of waiting with the new CEO model, and also just highlight that we also don't have an assistant chief for civilian service right now who actually would lead the CEOs, and so we have a temporary person that's in that role. I am looking forward to, and I know that the council president is not only as council president, but also as a member of the Public Safety Committee, knows all too well that position will be instrumental in terms of really helping to shape the CEO program and the efficacy in working with Montgomery County Public Schools. I also will say that, my daughter who goes to Northwest High School, I'm very well aware of the incidents that happened, as well as the incident that happened last year with Northwest and Seneca Valley. I was actually there at that game. And so from that standpoint, it really is one where I see it on both sides. I see the issues that continue around the engagement of our children when it comes to law enforcement, and ensuring that those engagements are ones that are positive and reinforcing of what we need to do to make sure that we maintain order, but at the same time are also respectful and helpful and restorative, right, in terms of, and not prejudicial and damaging. And so from that standpoint, I think there's still work to do. And so I look forward to following a lot of the work that the Commission on Juvenile Justice is going to do, because I think that, again, it's really going to take all of us working together to come up with a solution that is a middle ground that allows us to really get both of those objectives going. And then did want to talk to you, Ms. McNeely, because I know that at the national level, we're actually really focused on, and I used to chair the Human Services and Education Committee for the National Association of Counties. And so there we talk a lot about our foster families and foster youth, and especially LGBTQ plus foster youth that are aging out as well. And I think that we've got to do a better job of ensuring that we have that hand-holding approach when it comes to ensuring that they can migrate into adulthood and adulting and be ready to hit the ground running. I don't think we do as good a job of that and rely too much on our foster parents to do all of that, when we as a county have a role to play. And counties across this nation, frankly, this isn't something that's just unique to Montgomery County. So I would just encourage you, I'm going to make sure that I link you up with Rachel Mackey, who's with our National Association of Counties. She's the staff person for HSC, and we've been advocating for federal funding. I really would like to have us weigh in on that as one of the largest counties in the nation and very close to Capitol Hill. We need to continue to lift up our voice to make sure that folks understand why this is so important and why this needs to happen. So I really appreciate all of your work, but those are just some notes that I just wanted to put out there for future things that we can work on together. So thank you, guys.
Thank you all. Great comments. All right. Thank you so much. I just want to confirm, has the Commission on Veterans Affairs, is Mr. Miller, has he joined us?
He has not. I actually just got an email from him. He's on he's watching, but he is not on, so I need to get him.
Okay. Got it. Okay, no problem. So we'll have him come tomorrow. So we have 4 groups left. Why don't we hear from all 4, and then we will ask our questions after the 4 panelists. So we've got the Commission on Children and Youth, the Commission on Child Care, the Commission on Aging, and the Board of Social Services. So we will start with the Commission on Children and Youth. Good morning. How are you? Just need to hit the button by the microphone. There you go. Perfect. You're on.
Sorry. Good morning. Good morning, President Alvarez, Vice President Glass, and Councilman Rice. My name is LaTanya Johnson. I'm the chair for the Commission on Children and Youth, affectionately known as CCY, is what we call it. We are a 27-member body, including 1 member from Montgomery County Schools, 2 representatives from Health and Human Services, 1 representative from Montgomery County Recreation, and 1 representative from independent schools. The Commission on Children and Youth, we promote the well-being of Montgomery County's children, youth, and families so that all young people may realize their full potential and become contributing, productive adults. We do this by supporting policy and budget decisions that promote the safety and well-being of our children. This year, I'm proud to announce that we have a full slate of youth commissioners. We have 7 youth commissioners this year that make up part of our 27-member body. This year, our priorities that we'll be focusing on is education, equal education opportunities, as well as safety amongst youth. With this, the Commission on Children and Youth, we seek to explore current educational and resource gaps in Montgomery County Public Schools. Our focus will be placed on current resources available to low-income youth and students with disabilities. We will also examine how the school system engages and shares resources with Montgomery County families. Some of the concepts our subcommittees are looking to explore are the root causes regarding economic, race, accessibility, language, and varying disabilities amongst our youth. Also, some of those subtopics will include identifying gaps, solutions to closing those gaps in equal education, looking at better communication and dissemination of information amongst youth and parents, as well as facts versus perceptions. So there are community perceptions of what our schools are really doing versus what are the actual facts, and exploring that information. In regards to safety amongst youth, one of our aims this year is to promote youth safety in schools, with the emphasis being placed on physical safety and mental health, drug abuse and current programs available to youth inside and outside of the school system, as well as additional community resources. We're looking at root causes regarding hunger, housing, mental health, lack of accessibility and employment. And some of those subtopics our subcommittees will be looking at is restorative justice, conflict resolution, and interventions in varying types of abuse among youth, including drug, bullying, domestic violence, physical assault, and weapons. Additionally, our youth will be hosting a youth roundtable in March 1st of 2023. Please add that to your calendars. We would love to have all of you there and present. This is where our 7 youth they are 100% responsible for hosting this roundtable, and this is the opportunity for our county council as well as anyone in the public to come and just listen to what our youth have to say. Last year they focused on the effects of COVID. This year they haven't picked their subtopic yet. However, what came out of last year youth roundtable is that youth definitely felt the negative change in our school environment since returning from the pandemic. They also wanted non-traditional spaces, such as like cooking classes, video games, STEM sites, gardening opportunities in our rec centers, or any type of additional spaces. And also, in regards to youth employment, they wanted the council or the county to have more things around entrepreneurship. Our youth are really looking to become entrepreneurs, and they're looking for funding assistance, contracting classes, things to get them started early to engage and to become business owners. So that concludes my report to you guys this morning. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Johnson. It just occurred to me, Ms. Yao, I think moving forward it would be good, now that we have an Office of Grants Management, to invite them to participate and observe and at least listen, because there's some really good ideas being shared here and priorities being set forth that I think should be under consideration. Great. Next group we will hear from is the Commission on Child Care.
Good morning. I'm Brandon Howard. I represent the Commission on Child Care. The Commission on Child Care has 17 voting members and 6 to 8 non-voting members. But of the voting members, 7 are providers of child care services, 5 are parents of children receiving child care services, and 5 are from the business community and general public. I joined this past year as a member of the business community. I'm Senior Vice President of Leasing at DeVaris Real Estate, where I specialize in helping child care providers find and lease child care space, and I also have 1 child in child care in Montgomery County. So I think I might sit in maybe 2 of those buckets. The mission of the Commission on Child Care is to advise the county executive and the county council on the development, implementation, and effectiveness of government policies, programs, and services that enhance community support for quality, affordable, and accessible child care. Our top 2 priorities for fiscal year 23 are as follows. Number 1, develop recommendations on the Early Care and Education Initiative Action Plan in an effort to support the county's child care system with a specific focus on equity. Number 2, focus on the sustainability of the early care and education workforce by providing recommendations on ways to attract and retain professionals to commit to early childhood education as a long-term career option. Thank you.
Thank you. And my understanding is Mr. Miller has just joined us. So why don't we do this? Why don't we ask our questions of these 2 panelists now, and then we'll end with our final 3 panel. Yeah, three folks. Otherwise, I think it's too many. So with regards to our Commission on Children and Youth, one suggestion, Ms. Johnson, is we have this new Office of Food Resilience that was just recently formed within the executive branch. I think it might be good for the Commission to invite a representative to come and speak to you all about some of the work that they're doing, because I think there's synergy with the analysis you all are doing and looking at the root causes of hunger, which is very important work, and I think could complement each other really well, which I think would be great. And I've marked March 1st on my calendar, although that feels like forever away. It will be here before we know it. And so I do look forward to participating and hearing directly from youth. And as is always the case, I know both of my colleagues here and I feel very comfortable speaking to youth, which is a skill set in of itself. And so if there's an opportunity to come even before that session, I know we would enjoy that opportunity to engage. And also, as you develop the various subject matters, would be happy to provide the perspective of a policymaker when constructing the agenda, and that might help to make sure that the message gets through, sort of a two-way street there in the development of that important event. And I will stop there. And with regards to our Commission on Childcare, certainly again concur with all of the respective recommendations. One area that I think would be good to cross over as well, and we all need to do a better job of this. There is a policy in place established by the previous council that whenever there is a new building or facility developed in the county that's county run, the first priority needs to be confirming whether or not childcare can be added to that particular space. And I'm not sure that we're doing a great job of staying on top of that. I know it's assessed, but I don't think it's receiving the attention that was intended when the policy was established. And so I think there may be an opportunity for us to collaborate in partnership with the Department of General Services and have them come over and speak to you all about the identification of space, because we have lots of challenges, recruitment and staffing, training, policy issues at the state level, federal opportunities, but space continues to be a foundational challenge and opportunity. So those are some of my thoughts there. I'll yield to colleagues if they have anything. Councilmember Rice.
So I'm sorry for jumping ahead of the Vice President, but I'm so excited to talk to you, Ms. Johnson. It is just, and all the things that you said, it's just very interesting. So I'm the father of a junior in high school who I referenced before, who is a person who is growing vegetables in our backyard. So garden, check. Who also is an entrepreneur. She has her own business called Rice Cakes, check. And so it really is one where I think that what you've highlighted in terms of what you're hearing from our youth, I see every day in my household, and I couldn't agree with you more. These kinds of opportunities are incredibly important. So I did want to let you know that we are having a meeting next week with Chef Jose Andres. Because what has happened is in the District of Columbia, we have so many of these teaching kitchens that have been developed in in DC public schools, and we have none in Montgomery County. And to your point, there are so many, and I was just giving this example the other day. So it's very interesting that you say this, because I was talking to a young man who was afraid to admit to his friends that he wanted to cook and wanted to be a chef. And then once we gave a program in cooking in the school, not only was that young man attending, but then also some of his friends attended as well. And we're like, this is really cool. This is something that I want to do. We forget how much we have to reach our kids and expose them to all different kinds of opportunities. That is incredibly important. And so I just want to say amen to what you've said, because I think that it's important. And we need to start listening to our kids more. Our kids have these, right? They have these thoughts. They have these ideas. And so I love youth having a voice, because that's always been something as chair of the Education and Culture Committee that's been important to me, has been about lifting up our kids' voices and allowing them to tell us what it is that they want. It's the reason why we have the Teen Town Hall. And out of that Teen Town Hall have been born so many pieces of legislation and initiatives. The Kids Ride Free. Councilmember Glass worked on that. That came out of and was born out of teens saying, I need to have this. This is going to make a tremendous difference. And so, yes. And even though I'm not on the council, I'm going to still show up, just so you know. But Let me go to you, Mr. Howard, because it's amazing to me how all of these things link together. We were just having the conversation yesterday about the blueprint and an update with, or not yesterday, day before yesterday, an update on the blueprint and what happens with CTE and college and career readiness. And one of the things we talked about is building a workforce of those who are going to then enter into the childcare space. So we just had this conversation. So your priority is spot on with what we're talking about right now. I would also, as another piece of homework, as you heard from the council president and chair, that we will need to link you up with Montgomery County Public Schools as to the latest that's going on in terms of that initiative, and to ensure that they're informed by some of the things that you're seeing in the industry that can help them to shape and make sure that we have the best most appropriate programs, credentialing, all of that, and of course Montgomery College as well plays a huge part in that as well, in being able to just link all the pieces together. I think that'll be incredibly important. And then when it comes to sustainability and ensuring that we have spaces, I agree with what the council president and chair said as well, but I think we need to take it a step farther. What we certainly do is in the acquisition of property, but there's so many vacant buildings right now, vacant office space that's not being assessed to see if we could actually use and put in childcare. These commercial building owners are not getting any rents right now, sitting vacant, when they could have childcare. And because we have the blueprint coming up, it's a perfect opportunity for us as we expand slots, especially for private providers, right? To be able to go into these buildings and then provide a service to our community. We need to make sure that that link is there. And so I agree from DGS's perspective in terms of our own properties, but also when it comes to private. So working in conjunction with MCEDC to do a reach out to those property owners that have vacant office space and saying, hey, if you have vacant office space, work with, right, our commission on childcare and see if there can't be some links to where we can put, you know, some folks in these spaces that we know are going to be critical when it comes to expanding opportunities. So those are just my thoughts there, and really appreciate. I don't know if you wanted to, Ms. Johnson, I thought you were going to say something.
I was going to say something really quickly. One, I want to thank you guys. That's amazing that you guys were already kind of on that path, because it's a big deal for our youth. They want to create their dreams. Also, in regards to youth employment, I mean, these were some of the focuses that we focused on last year, and it's hard for youth to find employment and internship opportunities. And so one of our recommendations in our annual report was having some type of website where it's where all the agencies can promote opportunities, internships, apprenticeships, not just for the county, but for business owners, where the kids have like a one-stop shop, like how we have for SSL hours now, which is an amazing, love it. The youth want something similar to that, because as far as outreach, you know, the kids are on Instagram and TikToks, and so the traditional measures of outreach are not really reaching them. It's reaching the parents, but it's not reaching them, and they're the ones that need to benefit from that information.
So, and I apologize, Mr. President, Mr. Chair, but this is it's amazing because it seems as though you know my daughter, because she just got a job working at AMC Theaters, and it was tough for her to find a job. She had applied at so many places, and it literally took her. She had applied for AMC probably about 6 months ago, and just got a call a month ago. So she just started. She's been working for a month now. But I couldn't agree with you more. One of the concerns that I had, and my colleagues know this all too well when we raised minimum wage, was that we would price out our youth. Because as those jobs became higher paying, they became more attractive for those who were looking for a second job to help support families, which is also a priority for us. But then who gets pushed out is that person who doesn't have work experience, who may be questionable about whether or not they're going to show up or not, all those kinds of things. And so I knew and said this, that youth employment would suffer as a result, and we've seen that. You just look at your fast food restaurants, and who's working the drive-through. It used to be teenagers. That is not the case any longer, right? And so that says something about society, everything else, but at the same time, it also means that we've got to be intentional about the work that we do when it comes to providing job opportunities for our kids. So I think your idea is great. I will say that there may be a way for us, and I'm not sure, we'll need to talk about this. You know, we have the Summer Rise program, and that does a great job of giving internships, and we already have that benchmark of those companies that participate. So maybe we start there with that database and provide that and reach out to those individuals and say, hey, we're trying to start a database of if you're interested in employment, if you're interested in providing internships, we want you to be a part, and we can use that as a jumping off point for us. But I will say this, I've also talked with, and this is what we talked about in Education and Culture Committee as well, about making sure that we can expand Summer Rise. I'd like to see it go longer, and I'd like to see it grow bigger. And so that will also help us in accomplishing what you want to do. Because again, and that goes for you as well, Mr. Howard, because, you know, those career pathways to where children are being able to go into those spaces in childcare and see and gain that experience. And it was Councilmember Joando, I think, who gave the example of a person who actually was in Summer Rise, who now is working in childcare space. And she attributes her experience to being the reason why she decided to do this. He just talked about it on Monday. So, I mean, there's a lot of opportunities for us, I think, building off of Summer Rise and creating that, but I think we need to be very intentional about it. And I know my colleagues who are returning, who have always been supportive, will continue to support these efforts. It's going to require additional funding, so it is definitely a budget item. But I do think expanding to 4 weeks instead of 3, and then expanding the total in terms of number of students that we'll be able to serve will help along those lines, in addition to building that database, like you said, which I completely agree with.
If I can make one more comment, Councilman Rice. Also, in regards to Summer Rise and the SSL program, one of the other things that came out of the Youth Roundtable was that how they can correlate SSL, what they do in the volunteer world, and then create a career path out of that. So that was another thing that youth, and I know Summer Rise also helps with that. My daughter was in Summer Rise. It's a wonderful program. We definitely need more weeks of it. I think it's great for getting kids that exposure, but also what kids do volunteer-wise, they would like to see how they can create a pathway from volunteering to getting maybe a part-time introductional job in that space.
No, it's great. Council Vice President Glass.
Don't be sorry, Councilmember Rice, because had you not spoken, I did not know that I want to place an order for rice cakes, which is the best family business name ever. I don't even know what your daughter is selling, but I want it. So there you go. Bulk order. So I was going to say in all seriousness, but I was serious. Ms. Johnson, thank you for the presentation. You know, I was taking notes as you were talking, and the work that you're going to undertake over this next year, tackling hunger, housing, employment, restorative justice, conflict resolution, drugs, bullying. You got your
Those
plate
are our
full.
brainstorming.
Okay, well, all important, right?
Yes.
And the hard part, as you noted, is just now is honing in on the few areas that you have the capacity and the passion for all of it, but what can be worked on over the next year, and it's all really important. And so I look forward to joining my colleagues on March 1st, before, after, whenever, to hear more from the students themselves, because that's really what this is all about. And so thank you for sharing with us this list, and keep us updated over the next few months on what you hone in on from that brainstorming list, because it'll be important. So thank you.
You're welcome.
And Mr. Howard, I associate myself with the comments that my colleagues shared, and you know, the work that you do is evolving in real time. And as Council President Albornoz said, we have made a commitment here to make sure that there is more child care facilities, and it probably is worth if not an OLO report or something else on our end to follow up to see how we've done with our commitment. And we need to make sure that our communication is strengthened so that you can be the mirror for county government to make sure we are doing what is necessary. So thank you for being, do you have any comments or?
Yeah, just one.
Yeah.
You know, I think I'm glad that you all have the focus on the facility piece, because I was looking at I think it was the 2022 Maryland Family Network had a report, and it showed a downward trend for the number of family-based and center-based centers. It was just a forecast. It just kept going. It was just all downhill. But the funny, well, I guess it's not funny at all, but the increase was in the percentage of the median income that was going towards the child care cost. So that's on the rise. The center the number of centers is on the decrease. And so, identifying space definitely is an important concern.
Yeah, one of the statistics that we talk a lot about with regard to income and spending is, housing burdened, right? Rent burdened, right. And clearly you've entered into another dynamic, and it is childcare burdened, and we know that more and more of a family's income is being spent on childcare, right. Which we need to change that curve. So yeah. We'll continue that work together.
Thank you.
So thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great job. All right, so our next panel is going to include the Commission on Veterans Affairs, the Commission on Aging, and the Board of Social Services. And we will begin with the Commission on Veterans Affairs. Mr. Miller, thank you for joining us. I know you are testifying virtually, and I will turn it over to you for your 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President. It's an honor to be here. I am a wounded warrior, and I was just released from Walter Reed Medical Center. I had a major fall and shattered my shoulder and had it replaced. So today's my first day back on the job. Commission on Veterans Affairs would like to thank the County Council for its support that has provided us over 14 years of funding programs that benefit the quality of life of veterans and their families. We recognize that COVID-19 public health emergencies is placing difficulties and unprecedented pressures on programs and services in the county, as well as the rest of the country. We are recommending the following: the shelter for safety at the Seneca Landing Special Park accessible launch. We would like to recommend that the County Council provide needed funding and an estimate of $100,000 through the park CIP for the design and construction of a shelter for the picnic area for all, but especially the people with disabilities and who have temperature challenges, and to have a safer and more comfortable way of using and enjoying our parks. We also, the Commission on Veterans Affairs, support the establishment and funding of a Veterans Peer Support Specialist program consisting of veterans who live the experience in recovering from mental health, substance abuse, and military trauma, and who are in recovery and seeking behavioral help in Montgomery County. If the funding for this established agency, such as the Stephen A. Cohen Military Family Clinic and the Easter Seals, or serving together, could apply and administer this program for veterans peer support. The Commission also supports the continual full funding for public safety. Public safety affects everyone, and dollars committed to public safety should be reallocated and not be reallocated to other programs. We need to ensure public safety is a priority in our schools, crossing guards, pedestrians, and bicyclists. Also, we have done vouchers for homeless veterans and continue to maintain 016 campaign for Montgomery County and its homelessness program that we get VASH vouchers from Montgomery County and Washington, D.C. We are also in strong support of Bethesda Care's expansion on their outreach to veterans. We commend the county making a priority for the addition excuse me, in permanent effort housing for homeless population, working to achieve racial and social equality through sound housing policies. We also would like to continue support for Serving Together, that construction services were originally funded by the county grant award. Last year, a total contract of $150,000. Would like to $154,500. Thanks to this year's 8% inflationary adjustment and base funding of the contract will increase from $154,500 to $166,860. And hopefully an additional 2% will be executed, and at this point only 6% has been executed. Also, we are strongly in support of the Warrior Canine Connection. This year we're having a graduating class of 19 assistant dogs was for this year, and what it does, it brings in veterans and help them train service dogs for veterans in need. Additionally, WCC has served a total of 6,075 veterans through their mission-based trauma recovery program. 600 alone this year. Was selected by the VA CO to provide programming under the PAWS Act, signed August 21st. According to the VA, the PAWS Act is an unfunded mandate. Therefore, WCC needs help to provide these services for veterans, both locally and nationally. Once again, the impact WCC has on veteran community merits an approval of a $50,000 community grant. We recommend that this funding continue. And I think that's my report, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President.
Mr. Miller, thank you so much. Actually, I think we're going to ask our questions now so you can log off and rest. I can tell you're very uncomfortable, and I can't even imagine how much pain you're in right now. So I will be...
Okay. I love what you do. I love what we do, and I love veterans. So
well, we love what you do, and we appreciate your service. But we'll go ahead and ask our questions now so you can log off. So I just had one suggestion that I think the Commission is uniquely positioned to follow up on. The county has established as a practice preferred preference for military veterans for openings and job assignments. I'd be curious as to how we're doing with that preference with regards to hiring practices, and I think the Commission might be able to work with our Office of Legislative Oversight to track not just how the county is doing, but how we are doing in general. And so I think that could be a worthwhile homework assignment, Mr. Miller. And then just one last comment from me. With regards to the K-9 program, I couldn't agree more. And in fact, about 6 months ago, I had breakfast with the president and CEO of the national organization, who is a friend of mine. We'd participated in a leadership program together a few years ago. And they're interested in bringing a significant presence here to Montgomery County, but they need land. And so I'd love to follow up with the Commission and work with the county and the county executive to see if there is an opportunity for us to be creative there, because this, by all accounts, is a game-changing program on both sides, both the rescued animals, but also the veterans themselves. It's life-changing for everyone involved in that program. I've seen it personally. It's remarkable. So thank you so much, Mr. Miller. Those were just more comments for me, not questions, but wanted to make those suggestions, and I'll yield to colleagues if they have anything else they'd like to mention. Council Vice President Glass.
Thank you, Mr. Miller, for joining us this morning, and I wish you a speedy recovery, but just wanted to quickly add my appreciation for the collaboration that the commission has done, particularly with our homeless providers, and you listed a few of them, including Bethesda Cares, and talked about the vouchers, incredible programs that we provide here, and our work leading the nation in that space, making sure that everybody is housed, making sure that every veteran has a safe place to live. That is stuff that we've been leading on, that you have been a partner along with, and something that we're just going to continue doing as we move forward. And just wanted to express my appreciation there. And again, I wish you a speedy recovery, and thank you for your service.
Thank you. Councilmember Rice.
Yeah, I'll be quick, Mr. Miller, so you can rest as well. And we're all praying for you to have a quick recovery. When it comes to veteran peer support, I couldn't agree with you more. It's incredibly important. Being the son of a veteran, I see it each and every day. It is something that I think that a lot of people forget, the sacrifices that the folks who put on a uniform made and then came back here and really weren't entitled, or not entitled, but weren't provided with the proper services that they need. And so now we have to play catch up a bit. And so it's going to be incredibly important for us, especially when it comes to the mental health of all of our veterans as a whole, whether they were in combat or not, who have experienced tremendous challenges, and we give them the support necessary. And then when it comes to Warrior Canine, I agree with the council president and chair. Warrior Canine right now is in Germantown in my district at the Soccerplex. And Rick, who does a great job there. There is lots of land there, and so would certainly recommend looking at that. Obviously, there are a lot of places in the county, but certainly they do an amazing job. And I'll just share that our organizations like this also understand that it's more than just about veterans. They're committed to our society and our community, because Warrior Canine actually has been at Northwest numerous times when Northwest has had incidents, especially after the murder of Jalen Jones. Warrior Canine was there with dogs to provide support for the children. And they've also just done regular mental health check-ins with puppies and bringing them into, just as they do at Walter Reed, and bring dogs in as therapy dogs. They bring them into, and it helps because in the program it helps socialize the animals, and it also helps with the kids and just centering their mental health for that day. And I've heard it from many students who look forward to the dogs showing up on those particular days. And so it really is one where there's such a huge impact. It's a great program, and so certainly worth every single dollar. Sorry, Mr. Miller, go ahead.
No, I apologize. I just want to say thank you, and I'm going to sign off if it's okay.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. You take care and get well.
All right.
So Mr. President, I just would like to flag that, because I think that, and there's an opportunity for us and he is correct that the PAWS Act is an unfunded mandate. We actually worked on it at NACO. It's part of the Human Services and Education portfolio. And so working with NACO, we've been trying to draw down grant funding. And so I would just encourage us to continue to work with NACO and trying to make sure that some of that federal funding we can utilize to help support this.
Yeah, great suggestion. And Ms. Yao, I'd like to request that, I know you were taking notes feverishly, if you could share those notes with Mr. Miller, because obviously he probably wasn't able to take notes himself as the follow-up items. We'd appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right, next we are going to hear from our Commission on Aging, and then I believe our Board of Social Services as well. Is that correct? I don't have if they're here in person or virtual. But we know the commission is here, well represented. So why don't we start there? And thank you so much for joining us, Ms. Seltzer.
Good morning.
You have to hit the, Barbara, you have to hit the button right by the microphone on the bottom. There you go.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Barbara Seltzer, Chair of the Commission on Aging, and I'm pleased to present our fiscal year 2024 budget priorities. Our first priority is to hire one FTE for aging and disability services to serve as a coordinator for older adults. This position will help the many residents who are unaware of services available for older adults. It should provide outreach to the county's many diverse communities, support a library liaison program to ensure all public libraries have an older adult section with appropriate materials, coordinate an ambassadors program that provides speakers to agencies on aging issues, promote SNAP and the Senior Nutrition Program, help plan a summit on aging in 2023, and more. Our second priority is to increase funding for in-home aid services for both HHS staff and contract budgets. The state of Maryland offers programs that assist low-income elderly individuals to live in the community, including Medicaid waivers and assistance from other state and federal funding. Eligibility guidelines, both financial and medical, are strict, and waiting lists are long, with approximately 140 residents currently on the wait list. The COA advocates for increased funding to expand the number of residents eligible for services and to decrease the time the residents must wait to receive assessment and services. The Commission recommends more personnel for IHOS, including a case manager and an intake coordinator/assessment worker, to improve the timeliness and quality of assessments that determine eligibility to receive HCBS. Further, the Commission on Aging hopes to increase fiscal year 24 funding for IHOS contractors to expand services to more people, including some of the GAP population or those whose income is above the limit for Medicaid waivers, but who cannot afford to pay for HCBS on their own. The Commission on Aging has identified other items for which we will advocate during the budget cycle. We want to monitor the progress of the Access Here's pilot and provide funds if needed. Support villages' efforts to improve cost efficiency and equity and decrease the administrative burdens associated with running a village through development of a hub and spoke model. We want to plan and conduct a telehealth demonstration project to improve access to health care and support services for older adults. We want to increase funding for mental health outreach for older adults to eliminate waiting lists, provide funding and assign staff to plan a summit on aging in 2023 to plan for a growing older adult population, provide funds to conduct the passenger assistance safety and sensitivity certification training to Montgomery County drivers of taxi cabs and wheelchair accessible vehicles. And finally, provide gap-filling transportation services to older adults to prevent missed medical and other vital appointments. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you. That was a comprehensive list, as always. Very impressive one, an important one. Is the Board of Social Services here? Don't see them. Okay, so we'll invite them to participate tomorrow if they couldn't do it today. So, so you are our last panel here. So thank you so much. So, yes, amen to the summit. I just, I've talked about this publicly numerous times, but I was directly involved in the organization of the last two in the last 10 years, and both of them produced really great policy ideas that were actually, in fact, implemented, and it creates a time and place for organizations and individuals to come together to think holistically about aging issues. And this is going to be a priority in my office in my next, well, hopefully, after November, next 4 years. And then, and in fact, it's going to be a very high priority of my office over the next 4 years. So I'd love to work with the Commission and the executive branch on the development of that summit, because it is high time we get the band back together again and use that as a conduit, particularly as we're all coming together. So I look forward to that. And, frankly, it'd be an honor in recognition of Dr. Jay Kinney in many ways, because it was Jay that really helped put all of that together. It would be a way to recognize his memory. And then I there have been some pretty good reporting in the Washington Post and in the New York Times on aging issues. There was a great story a couple of months ago on just the ongoing challenges of finding in-home care, which we know are out there. But they followed the lives of several of the employees in that space, and all three of them were hanging on because they just really valued the work. They felt like it was so rewarding, but could have been making much more money in retail, could have been making much more money with a lot less stressful hours and commitment in other professional fields. And so just as we've been focusing, as we should, on childcare and recruitment and retention, I think there has to be a much more defined focus in this space too, because our systems are being tested in ways that are unimaginable. And we keep getting these really exciting projects but unfortunately very high-end senior living facilities that are inaccessible financially to the vast majority of our residents. And there's just not enough out there. There's a missing middle, a very significant one in terms of senior care and housing moving forward as well. So those are all areas that we clearly need to follow up on, and I'm looking forward to doing all of that and more. So thank you. Colleagues? Council Vice President Glass.
Thank you, Ms. Selter, for the presentation, and again, another big list of items to tackle over the next year, and I share the sentiment about the summit, and I think given the frequency in which these have taken place over the last decade or so, we are due for one, particularly as we look at life post-pandemic or in this new normal that we're in. Yesterday, this council approved Thrive, and as we look forward to the next 30 years of growth and development in the county and what that means, I think we are ripe for this conversation. And so please come back to us early and often about how how that's being planned, what input you might need from us to see what conversations, how we can help out with that. And so I look forward to staying in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Rice.
Well, thank you very much. One of the things that you highlighted as a part of your testimony about hunger and aging adults is something that not a lot of people talk about. We always talk about no child going hungry, but the reality is that our senior population and the eligibility for them to apply for SNAP has increased dramatically. But as of latest data, and I know this because I just came off of the White House conference on hunger, nutrition, and health, and we had a conversation about this in our aging population. Less than half of those that are eligible actually apply for the SNAP benefits that they're entitled to. And so I think that we have to do, as a part of our outreach when it comes to our senior population, an education campaign around some of the eligibility that they have to ensure that our seniors don't go hungry. We have robust programs that are here that are not taken advantage of in that sense, and so I think we need to do a better job there. I will just say that as the son of two aging parents, one who lives with us, I see it every day in terms of the continued challenges that affect our seniors, especially when it comes to predatory practices, financial predatory practices. And I think it's something that hopefully at the national level as well, and it should also trickle down to state and local, we continue to help when it comes to digital literacy, understanding that now our seniors are basically required to be on and connected. Everything from telemedicine to signing documents is all online. I know my father, who just went through something with the Camp Lejeune settlement. He was unfortunately stationed there, and is dealing with that now. All of his documents had to be signed by DocuSign. He had never seen DocuSign before in his life. Didn't know if it was something that was legitimate or not, and so had to call me and say, hey, they want me to use this thing. Is it okay? And fortunately, he knows that he can reach out to me and do that, but not all of our seniors have that. And so we need to make sure that when it comes to digital literacy, that we're doing everything we can. Senior Connection, a great program here in Montgomery County, needs to be expanded and double down. And I've had conversations with the county executive on this front, and so I think that we need to do even more when it comes to providing those resources for our seniors. I'm not sure if you want to comment any on that, Ms. Seltzer, but I know that's something that is concerning the Commission on Aging as well.
I think that's a really critical issue, whether it's actually getting computers out to people, whether it's getting broadband access out to seniors. It's a very, very critical issue. One of the things that the Commission on Aging is really interested in is not only getting these computers in the hands of seniors, but making sure that they really know how to use them. And that is something that Senior Planet has been enormously helpful in doing. So I couldn't agree with you more. But we're also interested in really exploring how we can look at technology to assist us in improving the health outcomes for seniors, and also looking at how technology could potentially help with the very pressing workforce issue in terms of home and community-based services. And I think there's a lot of pilots going on across the country that show that this technology can be very effective in helping deal with the shortage of home care workers. And that's something that the Commission on Aging is very, very interested in exploring. And in fact, our annual public forum will be on technology this year. So it is something that we are very critically looking at.
Thank you for saying that, because you also reminded me. The Ignite Hub, it's a brand new hub that is on the campus of Montgomery College in Rockville. Is specifically designed around ensuring that our communities are connected to technology. Primarily was formulated with its first goal being allowing our young people to see pathways and careers in technology. Secondarily, it's all of our community as a whole. And I think there's a great synergy that could exist if we could reach out to Kimberly Block-Rinkin, who's the director of the Ignite Hub, and possibly do some sessions to where they can have listening sessions, because the whole idea around the Ignite Hub is around designing apps and making sure that we have technology that is there to help assist our community members. And so getting those kinds of ideas from our aging population, which is one of our largest growing sectors here in Montgomery County, and to talk about that, but then also to link them up with getting them informed about the potentials that we have as career pathways, as other kinds of things. I think there's a dual synergistic thing that exists there that we might be able to work with.
I'd just like to mention that our technology subcommittee of the Aging in the Community Committee of the Commission on Aging is working with the University of Maryland at Shady Grove. We are working with a particular graduate student class to help us develop scenarios for a demonstration telehealth telecare project. And so we're working hand in hand with them, and certainly would love to expand that to the hub at Montgomery College.
All right, well, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
This has been very informative, very helpful. We look forward to round 2 tomorrow. So, Councilmember Rice.
I just have one thing that I forgot when we were talking to Mr. Miller that I wanted to highlight just as a public service announcement, because it's coming right around the corner. Many know Veterans Day is approaching quickly. We are participating in a national program called Operation Greenlight. The county executive has agreed to light up many of our council buildings in green the week of Veterans Day. And so it will be to, again, highlight and thank our veterans for their service, but to also make sure that we're educating our veterans about the services that we provide here in the county, and to also make sure that folks who aren't aware of the services to be able to reach out to us. So there'll be robust social media campaigns, and hopefully there'll be media coverage, mass media coverage as well, to make sure that we're highlighting this effort. And again, this is something that's happening nationwide. It came through the National Association of Counties, and so we're very proud to really have this to highlight the services that are necessary to help support our veterans. So just wanted to put that out there.
Absolutely. All right, well, thank you, everybody. So that we are adjourned for this morning, and we'll reconvene part 2 tomorrow morning. Thanks a lot.